Hi, today's lesson is Introduction to Religions. We are going to study the three monotheistic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I hope you had a good weekend and you're ready to watch this learning video and focus in on your work. The two assignments that you're going to have to go between today are this learning video that goes along with the slideshow that's called Intro to Religions and the fill in the blank notes. The lesson comes from Introduction to Religion on the gray slideshow, and the notes that you turn in for your daily grade are fill in the blank, where you're going to pull keywords off of the slideshow or off of my video, and you're going to highlight and retype. Again, this is your daily grade. And you're probably going to have to toggle between the two. The learning video goes with Introduction to Religions, and the fill in the blank notes is your daily grade that you attach in Google Classroom when you're finished. This lesson has, oh no, not share. I didn't mean to press that. Present, that's what I meant to press. This lesson has review questions within it. So I'll go through some slides, teach you some information, and then boom, ask you a couple of review questions so that we're sure that you're getting the most important part of the information. All right, let's go. Introduction to Religions. You see a Star of David, a cross, and a crescent moon and star. Those are the symbols of the religions: Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. So monotheism is the belief in just one God. And so there's my number one hand, the belief in just one God. During the time that the people lived in ancient Mesopotamia, this idea was completely unheard of. People worshipped many different gods and goddesses, which means that they were polytheistic. Polytheism is the belief in many gods and goddesses. You might think of ancient Egyptians or ancient Greek gods and goddesses that lived up on Mount Olympus. That was very typical of the world back in that time period. We're talking about 4,000 years ago. Mesopotamians, people who lived in Mesopotamia, that's present-day Iraq, people in Egypt and ancient Greeks were all polytheistic. So it was very rare for someone to come through and say, no, wait, we just believe in one God. But it's happening in history 4,000 years ago. Oh, stop, quick review. What's monotheism and what's polytheism? Go back to your notes and type in believing in just one God or believing in many different gods and goddesses. All right, so 4,000 years ago in the Middle East, there was a man named Abraham. And Abraham was so famous, he didn't even have a last name. He was the patriarch or the ruler of his group of people. And he went up on Mount Moriah and he spoke to God in the form of a burning bush. And God told Abraham, look around, everyone's polytheistic. That's not how you need to do things. You need to just believe in one God. And so, I was getting ahead of myself. God told Abraham, you just need to worship one God. And he also told Abraham that he had to move his people. Remember, he was the patriarch. He had to move his people from where they lived to a new land that God would give to them. If the name Abraham sounds familiar to you, that's because they write about him in the Bible. They write about him in the Torah, which is the holy book for Judaism. And they wrote about him in the Quran, which is the holy book for Islam. So when Abraham decided to do this 4,000 years ago in the Middle East, he decided to listen to God speaking to him in a burning bush saying, just believe in one God. The first monotheistic religion was born. So he started the very first monotheistic religion, and that was called Judaism. And here's some symbols of Judaism. The Torah rolled out scriptures on scrolls. This is a menorah, and this is a Star of David, all symbols for Judaism. Okay, quick review. Go back if you need to. What two things did God tell Abraham when he was on Mount Moriah? And then which religion was Abraham the starter, the founder of? Okay, so Abraham listened to God and he moved his people from this place called Ur. We used to call this Mesopotamia a long time ago. Now it's present day Iraq. So he moved his people up here to Haran, and there were polytheistic people already living there. And so Abraham and his people came, and they were the first monotheistic people. So they let Abraham, the polytheistic people, let Abraham and his people, the Jewish people, the Jews, stay there. And so Abraham's family tree looks like this. Remember, Abraham is the first one that starts Judaism. This is an extremely, hold on, I'm going to get everything here, which takes a lot of clicks. This is an extremely simplified version, but I just want to make sure that I get everything that I need to. All right, so if you've heard this story before, that's because it's written about in the Torah and in the Bible and in the Quran, which is the holy book of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So Abraham had a wife named Sarah, and they had a son named Isaac. Abraham also had, back then it was okay to have like more than one wife or more than one mother of your children. I mean, we're talking about 4,000 years ago in the Middle East. And so he also had a son named Ishmael from a lady named Hagar. And Abraham and Sarah and Isaac stayed together as a family. And Hagar and Ishmael, they took off and they moved to the Arabian Peninsula, which is modern day Saudi Arabia. And so off of the Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac family tree, we follow it down, and there's a lot of shared history between Judaism, and then eventually King David ends up here. King David was a very important person in a place called Israel, which is in the Middle East. And then Jesus of Nazareth was born, and he comes from the same line of descendants from Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac. And so when Jesus was crucified or put to death, he started the religion called Christianity. But we don't want to forget about this other side of the family tree. Remember, I said that it was okay back then for a man to have more than one mom for his children. And so Hagar and her son Ishmael, whose dad was Abraham, they took off and they went to the Arabian Peninsula. And so the descendant from that line of the family tree was a person who was named Muhammad. And Muhammad is important because the religion that Muhammad founded is called Islam. So we need to talk about King David and King Solomon. They're very important historical figures. So King David was the author, which means he was the writer. Back then, maybe they didn't write things down, but they just told people stories. It's called oral history of most of the Psalms, which are kind of like songs or poems. And then we have King Solomon, who's the son of King David, and he built the first big Jewish temple in Jerusalem, Israel. And then it got torn down in a war, and then it got rebuilt, and then it got torn down again. So now if you visit Jerusalem in Israel, there's this the structure that used to be there is just kind of a wall full of bricks, and now they call it the Wailing Wall. And it's the remnants of a temple built by King Solomon thousands of years ago. All right, so I just taught you a lot of information. So I need you to look back at that family tree and trace it up and figure out what ancestor did Jewish people, Christian people, and Muslim people all have in common. Then when we look on the Arabian Peninsula side of the family tree, go down to the very bottom and find out what's the name of the person who started the religion called Islam. And type that into your notes. So now we need to fast forward a few thousand years to Jesus. Jesus was Jewish, and he taught people lessons in the Jewish temple. He was arrested by the Romans, who were the people that ruled the area of the Middle East at that time. And he was crucified, which means put to death on a cross by the Romans. And if you look back and you notice that the symbol for Christianity is a cross, now you can connect the dots and realize that the reason that the symbol for Christianity is a cross is that Jesus was crucified or put to death on the cross by the Romans. Jesus's followers called themselves Christians, and they believe he rose from the dead and that Jesus was the Son of God. And And the Jews had always believed, ever since Abraham started the religion 4,000 years ago, the Jews had always believed that God would send someone to save them. So from the time they had arrived in Haran, they had been picked on and mistreated and taken into slavery by the Egyptians. They had not had an easy life. So Moses, who was a Jewish leader, led the Jewish people out of Egypt. And this is a pretty famous story in the Jewish holy book, the Christian holy book, and the Muslim holy book too, say that Moses parted the Red Sea, and just like Abraham did, he talked to God in the form of a burning bush. Moses also wrote the Torah, which is the holy book for Jewish people. And so both Jesus and Moses are prophets of Judaism. So here's what a prophet is. It's a messenger who is set apart for a special purpose, and oftentimes they bring messages from God. And a prophet is considered like a person, but not necessarily God himself. So we've got these two religions that share a whole bunch of history. We've got Judaism and Christianity. And there's a lot of shared history there for thousands of years where Jewish history was happening. And then when Jesus was put to death, that's when Christianity started. So we have Jesus, or not Jesus, I said it wrong. We have Judaism, which dates all the way back to 4,000 years ago with Abraham. And then we have Christianity, which dates back to close to 2,000 years ago when Jesus died. So Christians believe that Jesus is their Messiah. And Jewish people are still waiting on a Messiah to come. So what's a Messiah? A Messiah is a savior for a group of people. So Christian people believed that Jesus was the Son of God, and then Jewish people believed Jesus was a very important person, a prophet, but he was not the Messiah, and Jewish people are still waiting on the Messiah. So here we go. Two prophets for Judaism. Go back in your notes and find the names of those two guys. And then what's the main difference between Judaism and Christianity? That is it for the day. Your assignment is to go back and forth between this video where I'm teaching you about the origins of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and a lot of the shared history that I'm telling you, and then turn your fill in the blank notes in Google Classroom when you're finished with everything. Let your teacher know if you have any questions. I hope you have a really great day. Bye.